Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisum, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. Hey everybody, John Chisum here. Thanks for taking a little bit of your day to spend with me here on the Song Revolution podcast. I think I tell you guys every single week how much I love doing this show because not only do I get to teach and hang out with you guys a little bit, I get to interview some amazing people. And this week is no different. I got to interview Black River Christian artist Josh Wilson. He's got a great new single out called Dreaming Small, or actually Dream Small, not Dreaming. And it's cool. It's very, very cool. It's a new take on the American dream. I think you're going to really enjoy that. So be sure and check that out. He's a Texas native. He started taking piano when he was in fourth grade, like probably a bunch of us all did. He learned guitar and drums in sixth and seventh grade, but he really fell in love with songwriting when he was at college here in Nashville at Belmont University. He describes himself as an introvert, but I think he's a pretty darn good performer and great singer, great songwriter. He's had several albums out, and this new single is really already making some waves. He's toured with some of Christian music's biggest names like Third Day, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Casting Crowns, and Matthew West. But you know what? He's a humble guy, loves his wife, loves his kid, and he's just a great guy. So sit back and enjoy a little bit of Josh Wilson today on the Song Revolution podcast. All right, everybody, John Chisum here with my new friend, Josh Wilson. Hey, Josh.
Hello, the internet slash
yeah, for real.
Digital friends that are real people listening on the other end.
Hey, well, I will like and share. How about that?
I like to like, and I like to share. All good things.
I like to like. There you go. There's a cool song. I like to like, I like to share. That's very cool, man. Well, thanks for being on the show. And I spend a fair amount of time just really studying the people that I bring on the show, just so that I can walk into this interview feeling like I know somebody's heart and kind of where they're coming from. And I've been so blessed just getting to know you and at least your work, getting to know about your new single and some of your past recordings and your history and stuff. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to talk with you today about what's going on with you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I love music, I love writing songs, and certainly enjoy talking about the process. It's a bit of a mysterious one, so I don't know how much I'll have to offer your listeners, but I'll certainly, I can talk about my experience for sure. So yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? You have a ton to share with them. You're not new at the music thing. You've been doing this for 10, 12 years, I think was your first recording in 05, 06, or was it a little earlier or kind of right around there, I think?
Yeah. So my first independent album was probably about 03, 04. And then my first label album came out in 08, I believe. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or maybe 07. So yeah, well over a decade I've been doing this full time.
Right. So now you're on Black River Christian label. You've got a whole new single out, but let's don't go there yet. Let's kind of hold that and talk a little bit about how you got into this. And as we move through our discussion, we'll talk about more about the records and songwriting process and all that. But how'd you get into all this?
Well, so I've been interested in music since I was a kid. I took lessons, when I was in elementary school. My parents actually put me in piano lessons in fourth grade, and I didn't love them at first, but as I kind of started to catch on and learn how to play a couple songs I knew, I kind of got interested. I thought, man, this is something that's sort of fun. And so I took piano and guitar and drums in elementary school and then on into middle school. And of the three of those, guitar was the one that sort of stood out as the most interesting to me. I remember when I had learned songs that I had heard on the radio, like on the oldies station, I learned like Smoke on the Water. I thought that was really cool that I could play the rock and roll songs that was hearing on the radio.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what hooked me on the guitar, was that I could sound like some of these tunes I heard on the radio. So when you asked me how I got my start, maybe I went back too far, but that's kind of my first memories of really enjoying playing instruments was in middle school, elementary school and middle school. And I got more interested in songwriting it was honestly really in college. I wrote songs in high school, but it was more so I could play like rock and roll guitar around those songs. And I think I got more interested in the craft of songwriting when I moved here to Nashville in 2002.
And you came here to go to Belmont?
I did, yeah. I grew up in Texas, graduated high school, and I moved here, entered Belmont in 2002 as a music major, actually. Plans to be a commercial guitar major, and I did that for a semester. And then as I got more interested in songwriting, I switched from like a music performance degree to music business, knowing that I didn't need a music degree to write songs, but I always thought it would be nice to have a business degree because it's so broad. You can sort of fall back on that if the performance side of things did not work out.
Right. Well, it looks like a bunch of stuff has worked out for you. And what percentage of your university training do you feel like you really use?
That's a little bit hard to quantify. It's because a lot of it is just, I feel like, any kind of education, you're especially higher education, I think you're learning two things. You're learning what you're interested in, and then you're just learning how to learn. And so I took a lot of classes that directly apply to what I do. Like I took music publishing, and I took, copyright law. And so those are kind of more the businessy side of things. And then I also took, there was a class on being a mix engineer and a class on being a producer. And so I use bits and pieces of all of those. I did not know I was going to be an artist. I would have paid a little more attention in all those classes had I known I was going to be directly using them. I passed my tests and I made my grades, but I didn't really move to Nashville to be an artist. I thought I wanted to be a studio guitar player, and then I thought I wanted to just be a songwriter. But then I learned that, there's a good chance, at least at first, nobody's going to be singing or hearing these songs unless I'm the one singing them and for people to hear them. And so I kind of just out of necessity started playing, in coffee shops and youth groups and things like that while I was in college. And then I think, I feel like God's pretty patient with me. I'm a pretty slow learner, and sometimes it takes me a bit to catch on to things. And so it took me a while to figure out I was supposed to be doing this as an artist. Right. So I would have paid more attention. But yeah, I was learning how to learn, and then I was meeting a lot of people that I'm still friends with to this day, and a lot of people that I'm still involved with in a musical and professional capacity. So it's kind of like anything in life, you pick up bits and pieces here. I can definitely say I wouldn't be where I am now had I not spent those 4 years at Belmont in the music business program for a number of reasons. But yeah, it certainly shaped who I am.
Okay. Well, that's cool, because there's two sides of that argument, whether you need to go get a degree to become a success, because, plenty of people have not. And on the other hand, plenty of people have, like Trisha Yearwood and other people, that have done the college thing. So that's awesome, dude. That's great. And you've wound up traveling and touring with some great big people, some big names: Third Day, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Matthew West, Casting Crowns, just to name a few. So, to have moved from your university career to those kinds of stages, what kind of gap was there? How long did it take before you were kind of doing those sort of things?
So I released my first independent album, like I said, probably 2004 or 5, and I entered it in the Belmont has these showcases of different genres, and there's a Christian music showcase, and I entered 3 of my songs into that and ended up making it in. This was my, I think my junior year of college, which would have been 04, 05. And I ended up winning. And then there are music industry people that come to judge those things. And we have mock managers for these things. It's like a big production. Everybody gets to practice what they're majoring in. So people who want to be managers get to be managers of these artists, and the artists get to practice that, and the sound people get to do that. And anyway, my manager handed my independent album to all these judges, and then one of the judges was an assistant to Brad O'Donnell, who was A&R over at Sparrow Records, over at EMI CMG, which is now Capitol. And I found myself in Brad's office the next week, and he was wanting to talk songs and what my plans were. And he's like, hey, man, I'd love to stay in touch and keep up with what you're doing. And so I stayed in school. I finished school. I released another independent album. And I actually, they offered me the official record deal the day I graduated in May of 2006.
Wow.
And then there was so the timing was really amazing, and God kind of opened the doors right at the right time. And like I said, I'm a slow learner, so sometimes God opens a door and I sort of stand there, and then after a little bit, it's like he sort of kicks me through it, like, hey, you're supposed to be doing this. Because I never, like I said, I never saw myself doing this. I didn't really want to be in the spotlight. I'm fairly introverted, and so I have kind of an aversion to being the center of attention. It makes me a little bit anxious, and sometimes I feel like I relate a lot to Moses when he's like, God, you got the wrong guy. Not that I'm going to, free a people from slavery, from a Pharaoh. Like, not that my job is that, grand or anything. But what I'm saying is, like, God's like, I want you to go, I have something for you to say. And I'm like, God, I don't think I'm the person to say it. But he continually opened these doors. And so I signed that deal the day I graduated and put out my first record with Sparrow about a year after that. And there was a little bit of a gap in between my indie records and the label record. But I pretty quickly was, my first tour was with Matthew West back it was probably 2007. Toured a couple times with him. And then, some of those other tours sort of came over the last 10 years. I've done tours of my own, but I've also co-headlined with Jason Gray. I've headlined my own tours where I've taken out other openers. But, as far as Third Day, Stephen Curtis, those tours kind of come and go. And it's a lot of fun when I get to tour with some people who have looked up to for a long time. I grew up listening to Third Day and Stephen Curtis Chapman. And so to be opening for those people, it has been an honor to travel with some of those folks that I just look up to. It's funny, man. You ask about the gap. I feel like this job is so strange, at least the circles I run in, because the shows are just so different. Our country is so big, and you play in these different areas and different places. And I mean, you could be, I remember I got to play at the Willow Creek Leadership Summit a few years ago. And it's like, okay, well, here's a room full of 6,000 people. And then like the next week I found myself playing at some outdoor kind of community fair thing in some small town. And there was like 150 people there. And so it's almost, it's weird. It's like you can be one place one week and another place the next week. And because of a million little factors, every show can kind of look different. You almost just kind of have to be ready for whatever comes your way. And I found it's like that no matter what level you're at. So even when I'm open for some of these bigger acts, even they have, what you would consider to be bad nights where it's like, for, like I said, there could be a game on that everybody stays home to watch, or it's homecoming night and everybody's out at that instead of at the show, and for whatever reason. And you just can't base what you're doing off of any one show, whether it's good or bad, whether it's like, hey, there's tons of people here, there's nobody here. It's probably going to be different next week for a number of reasons. So, yeah, it's kind of been all over the board for the last 10 years.
So it sounds like it's probably something that keeps you humble, jumping from big crowd, small crowd, medium crowd, right? Yeah,
it keeps you humble, but it also keeps you from going sort of into that pit of despair, because if you have a show where nobody comes, like I said, I mean, you can wind up having a show the next week that'll make you go, okay, I think I am, I am supposed to be doing this. This is going okay. But yeah, you certainly can't get a big head about any one event, because people move on to the next thing. And, I'm just always grateful for anyone who ever comes to a show. Yeah, it definitely does. It keeps you humble. I think and then when people do show up, you're like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this. I think this is okay.
Right. I don't really suck. I really can do this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Cause you have those, I call them I quit nights. And it's like the nights that it's just a battle, man. It's like, I don't know. It's just work, because music can and should be fun a lot of the time. And then there's nights when you just feel like, are these people like happy that I'm here? Like, even the people that are in the seats, do they want to be here? And then inevitably, you always have to kind of keep a perspective, because usually it's those nights when I'm on stage, it just feels like a battle for the whole night. And then after the show, someone's like, hey man, thank you for this song or this moment. I really needed to hear this. And that's when you're like, that does keep you humble, but it also reminds you that it's not really about you in the first place. Hopefully if you're writing songs that are honest about your own struggles and faith, God can use that in someone else's life, because they go, hey, me too. And it doesn't matter how many people are in the room, because every room is filled up with individuals. So a room of 4,000 people, it can be the same as a room of 40 people, because it's all just individuals being affected by your music. So I think it's important to keep in mind that it's affecting one person at a time. That's always helpful for me on the I quit nights, to go, someone here, I hope and pray, got something out of this, and every night's not like this, and it's going to be okay. But for now, I feel like I want to quit.
Yeah, boy. Hey, well, that's encouraging to me, dude. I mean, all of us feel that at one point or another, but that's encouraging, We're going to take just a quick break and talk about something that I think is going to be very valuable for you as a Christian songwriter. So check it out.
Do you feel like God's given you a bunch of songs, but you don't know what to do with them? Do you feel like you've got a real call on your life to write, but you're clueless about where to start? Or maybe you've got writer's block and you're wondering if you'll ever get the creative juices flowing again. Well, we've got you covered with NCS membership. NCS membership is all about community and how to grow in this calling you feel deep inside to be heard. We get it. We know that you just want to honor God with your talents and be a good steward of what He's given you. And that's why NCS membership could be your next right step to grow, learn, be challenged, get connected, and ultimately fulfill your dreams to glorify God and reach others with the same passion you feel. It's designed to help you tell your story and to reach listeners who will love your songs. With your NCS membership, you'll receive 2 free song critiques, 24/7 access to valuable masterclasses on topics such as modern hymn writing, worship writing, song form, lyric development, and recording home demos, as well as discounts for other NCS products, and a deep connection into a community of creatives who get you. There are a lot of songwriters out there, so you need to be the best you can be to stand out, be heard, and become the songwriter you were born to be. Just go to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com now to check out all the great benefits of becoming part of a decidedly Christian community of songwriters from all over the world. NCS membership, your next right step to being heard.
Well, I just hope that you'll take advantage of that and check it out. All right? We bring you good stuff here on the Song Revolution podcast. So back to our episode. So speaking of gaps, you've had a little bit of a gap between your last record, that was Then, This Is Now, to your new single, Dream Small, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think there's been a ton of stuff going on in your life since the 2015 record, hasn't there? Like
man.
a little boy and stuff like that. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's funny. This whole new record deal has kind of come at a new season in my life anyway. I feel like in a lot of ways, this is kind of a reboot for me. in an encouraging way. So yeah, my little boy, well, first of all, my wife, her name is Becca. We are going to celebrate 9 years of marriage this year.
Congratulations.
And, thank you so much. And so that's been fun. You know, we've been married almost a decade, and we had a little boy in 2015, and he's 2.5 years old now. So that has taken up the majority of our time over the last 2.5 years. And so it's been, that's kind of been a whirlwind. I think I was actually in a co-write today, and we were talking about sort of what we're learning and what God's teaching us. And I think being a dad has taught me two things. I think it's taught me surrender, because I just, even when you're married, I think before you have kids, you're able to sort of still kind of get what you want and sort of be selfish, but make it look like you're being generous. And I don't know, you can kind of still win. You know how that goes. It's like, you're like, hey, honey, I got us movie tickets, but you kind of want to like see the movie too, and you make it look like you did a good thing. But I don't know, you can kind of fake selflessness. But when it's a kid, it's like, oh man, he's crying he's 2.5, and we've had trouble with him sleeping to this day. Like, we didn't sleep last night, and you just can't fake selflessness anymore. You have no choice. And so God's teaching me surrender, in that I can have my plans, but I need to hold them loosely, because I don't know. He's just, he's my little boy. I love him so much. His name is Asher. It's doing a good job of just teaching me what it means to live for somebody else. And it's teaching me how much God loves me. And so that's been a bit of a learning curve. I'm learning, man, I got a long way to go in this whole loving others, loving my neighbor as myself. Because you can kind of do that and still sort of love yourself a little bit more, and be secretive about it. But now that I have a kid, it's like, man, God is purging that selfishness out of me in some really good ways. And the other thing I'm learning is gratitude. There's just so much to be thankful for, even in the middle of any hard times. I'm not sure who this original quote is from. My mom has it's funny. It's from like Kirkland's on her wall, like a thing at our house that says like, there's always, always, always something to be thankful for. And man, that's true. I don't care who you are or what you're going through. You can find something. And I always try to look for those things. So, I mean, I'm just supremely grateful to be a dad and to be a husband. And in those harder moments, I'm thankful for the little sweet moments that come, the little glimpses of God's love for me, and my son's love for me. I sometimes they're few and far between at 2.5, but they're really sweet when they come, and I'm thankful for those. So so lots. That's been the biggest change in my life, is I'm a dad now, and I know that's the most normal thing in the world, because everybody has kids. But it's been fun to sort of experience that for myself and sort of catch a glimpse of, okay, this is what it means for God to love me. We're God's children, and He loves us infinitely more. So I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm struck by God's love for us. So that has been a pretty massive change, and I think it's definitely trickled into my writing.
That's awesome. Yeah, having kids will change your life. That's true, man. I love your phrase. You can't fake selflessness, and you can't with a kid, man. They're going to bring out the best and the worst, aren't they?
That's so true. I think God designed it pretty well. It's crazy. It's crazy how much we give to our kids, and you kind of don't think about it. It's like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll give that, and you sacrifice. You're sort of forced into this sacrificial living. And I don't know, it's sort of, you start to get a muscle memory for it, and you're like, oh, it actually feels good to give myself for somebody else. And then hopefully, I think if sanctification does its work and we become more Christ-like and more giving, then our kids can teach us how to love other people better. I feel that happening in my life. Not that I've arrived. I mean, I still, gosh, I got a long way to go. I got a lot of selfishness in me. My son is teaching me what it means to be like Jesus, because you sort of have no choice in the matter. It's like, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice my time and money and health and sleep and give myself to him. But then in return, realize like, oh, in this sacrifice, I'm finding true joy, true happiness, and back to the surrender thing. It's like, man, I was never in control. My son is just highlighting that fact. But he's fun, man. He loves music. My wife just sent me a video about 30 minutes ago of him. He's, like I said, he's 2.5, and he's on the couch in there by himself, and he's just strumming his little guitar. He doesn't know any chords or anything, but he's in there writing a song. It's really cute. He's going, I'll go outside, and go outside, and go outside. He's just singing what's in his heart. He wants to go outside. So it's all those little sweet moments. Yesterday, he sneezed, and I don't think he knows the word sneeze, so he looked at me. He goes, achoo, and then he goes, Daddy, I bless you. So he called it a bless you. So it's just fun to see the world through his eyes. We write down every little cute thing he says. We're pretty obsessed with him, but man, it has been a fun journey so far. And it's only been 2.5 years, so I'm loving it.
Well, you'll be obsessed now, then you won't even care for your second kid. That's just the way it happens.
That's what I hear. That first kick is all the attention, and the second one is just like, hang on.
I know, right? Yeah, you're lucky to be here, kid. Shut up. But,
that's right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, let's shift over. That's awesome. Congratulations on Asher, and those are special times. Let's shift over to another special thing, which is your new single out on Black River Christian called Dream Small. And maybe tell us a little bit about where that came from.
Last summer I was, we were trying to pick a song, me and my manager, his name's Joel, trying to pick a song for a radio single. And I was independent at the time. I was in between record deals, and we were going to release a single independently to radio, and trying to figure out, Joel was asking me, which of these is the big idea? What do you want to talk about till you're blue in the face? And we were looking at a list of, I think, 5 or 6 songs, and Dream Small had not been written yet. And I was kind of looking at them thinking, man, none of these are like, I wouldn't say they're like a life mission statement or like any kind of big, I don't know, nothing about my life that someone would write a movie about. I just, or read a book or shoot a movie about it. I just thought, man, they're all kind of, I don't know, they're just bits and pieces of me. I don't feel like there's any one sort of big banner I wave all the time. And so when he was asking me, what's the big idea? What's the thing to hang your hat on? I kind of went home and I was like, man, I don't think I really have that. And I got a little bit discouraged because I was like, I feel sort of uninteresting. And about that time, I was sort of struck with the analogy of an orchestra. And God kind of laid on my heart that I think the Christian life is it's not always about sort of waving that big banner and saying like, hey, here's the big thing. While those things are important, and I think there are some people that do get movies made about them, and for good reason, most of us don't. The majority of us don't. But I think that's actually what the Christian life is about. The Bible says we're a body, which means we're all different parts, which means we all have a different part to play in sort of this bigger work that's going on. So if you think of an orchestra, you go and you sit and there's all these instruments, all these people on stage playing these individual instruments, and they got one instrument, one piece of music, and they play their part. And then all the music comes together, everybody follows the conductor, and it turns into this beautiful symphony, this beautiful piece of music. And God kind of laid that on my heart, like, you know what? Maybe today you're playing the triangle, and somebody else is playing a cello, and you don't have to worry about playing the cello part. Let them do that. And all these little parts come together and they make up a bigger whole, a bigger piece of music. And then the phrase, I was thinking of, we're told to dream big, and I think it's good to dream big. But when I sort of finally came up with the phrase dream small, because Joel had been saying like, what's the big idea? I'm like, man, I think for me, I think it's all the small things. I think it's all the small ideas. And when I came up with that phrase dream small, I was like, oh man, I'm onto something here. And I just kind of started writing about our life. So I wrote about my wife, Becca. It's a mama singing songs about the Lord. She was literally in the other room singing to Asher. They were singing, something silly, if you're happy and you know it, or whatever. And then I was writing, it's a daddy spending family time the world says he cannot afford. Because a lot of these days when I'm home, I feel pressure to like work, go. And sometimes I forget to just be with my family. And so I wrote that. And then the second verse is about my granddad. He was a pastor in South Arkansas for 40 years at the same church. It's a pastor at a tiny little church, 40 years of loving on the broken and the hurt. These simple moments change the world. I think about every hospital visit he ever made, or every meal he took to somebody who needed it, or every time he sat down and prayed with somebody that was just like, Pastor Jerry, I'm having a hard time with this. And he took time out of his schedule, and no one made a movie about that, but he changed that person's day. And millions of pastors all over the world are doing the same thing for their local congregation. And that ends up changing the world, because it's all these little musical pieces that are happening, everybody following the great conductor, right? And it's all coming together into this beautiful symphony. The third verse, to visiting the widow down the street. We have some neighbors, some widows that we try and just be faithful to try and talk to. We'll take Asher down and bake cookies, and nobody knows about that. The news doesn't show up. But it's, if we're all being faithful, the Bible says, care for the orphans and widows. And then it says, dancing on a Friday with your friend with special needs. So that's Young Life Capernaum. That's a ministry we volunteer with every week, where it's Young Life for kids with special needs. And there's a dance party at the end of every club. Again, just writing about these little things in our life in hopes that people hear it and go, hey, I can do these little things too. This is the way that that I can dream small. So all that to say, the song came from a very autobiographical place, and my hope in writing that song was to give people permission to not have to have something viral on the internet to feel like they're making a difference. These little things that we're doing, if everybody's doing them, they add up. And dreaming small actually accomplishes big things. And so I wrote that song in about an hour, which is rare for me. I don't write super quickly. But it kind of came in, like I said, in response to what's the big idea? I was like, well, for me, it's small, at least right now. And then actually the record deal came after that. I had a friend over at Black River who I worked with at Capitol back in the day when I first went over there. Brian Thiel, he was a radio promoter at Capitol, and then he went over to Word for a little bit, and then he's now the head of radio at Black River, and they were looking to sign a new artist, and next thing I know, I'm in their conference room sharing my heart, playing the song for them, and they sort of caught the vision. And long story short, it was a good fit. I took my family in. It all, we just really hit it off, and they sort of, like I said, caught the vision and the dream of what I wanted to do. And fast forward a year, and I recorded and released the song through them, and I'm working on new music now. But that's kind of been the last couple years of my life, has just been sort of digging in, trying to really love my family well and write songs that I believe in. And it's funny. It's the second record deal I wasn't looking for that just sort of came to me, and God's like, okay, here's your next step. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to sign another deal. And I feel like I'm supposed to continue touring and writing songs. So here I am.
Wow, dude. Well, man, we're excited for you. And it's a great song. I know that everybody that hears it will just really gravitate to it. We'll put links to it in the show notes here on the podcast. So you guys listening, be sure and check out the new single from Josh Wilson, Dream Small. So is there anything, Josh, that you'd say to aspiring songwriters who are like, God, that guy is so lucky. Why does he get to do it and I don't? And how can I get better and maybe have a shot at this thing?
Okay. Aspiring songwriters. Let's see. I'll give you 3 pieces of advice. If I could boil down my years of experience, I would say the first is to write what you know. Be as honest as you can and write about the things you've experienced. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to write a song that you feel like someone else would write. In that, what I was just saying, we all have a part to play. We all have an instrument and a piece of music to play. You have a voice and an experience that none of the rest of us do. So you write from there and be honest. We need your voice. We don't need you to try and be somebody else. So aim for your target. Don't try to write a song I would write, or a song that Casting Crowns would write, or whoever you can be influenced by all kinds of artists, but you write from your perspective. The second piece I would say is write as much as possible. One of my favorite writers, John Foreman, I think this is true. It's sort of lore that's passed around writers' circles, is that he writes a song a day. And I bet you not every song is amazing, but because he writes so much, first of all, he's very prolific. He's an amazing writer, but I think part of it is he just works those muscles so much. So the more you write, the better you're going to get. So if you want to record 5 songs, write 50 and pick the best 5, because they're not all going to be great. I still write songs that I'm like, man, that's just not a good song. They're not all going to be great, but the more you write, the better you're going to get. The third thing I would say is, if you want to do music for the money, you need to get a different job, because there is potential to make money in music. But this is one of those careers that has got to be a passion thing. You got to be passionate about it. And if you're, a lot of times people say, I want to be a songwriter. I want to be an artist. And I think what they might want is to be like a famous artist or like a famous songwriter. That's not a good reason to be doing this. If you're after fame or money, if you're after fame, I don't really know what to tell you, because there's a lot of different ways to get famous. But if you're after money, be a doctor. I don't know. Be one of those jobs that kind of has guaranteed income after a while. Not to say that those things are easy, but if you want to do music, you need to do it because you love it. Because there may not be money. There may be, but just do it because you love it. So I guess those would be the 3 things that I would say.
Good, man. Fantastic answers. I ask those questions a lot, and those really great insights. So thank you for that. Okay, so you've got joshwilson.com. How do joshwilsonmusic.com. Sorry, dude. I should have been looking at the notes when I said that. So joshwilsonmusic.com. And then how do you like to interact with your fan base? If people want to start following you and kind of interacting, what's your favorite way to do that?
Well, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So any of those places, and you can get to all of those from my website. My user handles are, because the name Josh and Wilson is so generic, my handles are a little bit different, but you can find all those at the website. And then, just find me on socials. I love interacting there. And, of course, shows and all that stuff. I love meeting people after shows. So I know that this audience, you guys are all primarily songwriters, so you may not necessarily be going to too many shows if you're working on writing, but find me on social media for sure.
Absolutely. Josh, man, this has been rich. I appreciate so much your wisdom, and I'm so thankful, man, for your family, for the values that I see represented there that are just so, needed. I love the little videos that I saw. No, I wanted to ask you that. Where can we put the links to those videos in our show notes? Or do I need to ask your
that'd be great.
people?
That'd be great. So the Becca interview, I interviewed my wife. That's on my YouTube. And then the one about Jay, who is our neighbor, friend of ours with autism and cerebral palsy, who is just a fantastic neighbor. I interviewed him, and that'll be up on my YouTube shortly. But yes, please, any of those links, we film those for people to hopefully see them and be inspired to dream small in their own ways.
Well, they're great. Very, very well done, and gives people a lot of insight into who you are as a person. an artist and a songwriter. So, man, thanks for being with us today on the Song Revolution, and we certainly wish you the best.
Well, thank you so much. And all you who are listening to this, go write a song today. We need to hear it.
Hey, everybody. I hope that you know by now that we here at Nashville Christian Songwriters are all about empowering you to fulfill your call to become a great Christian songwriter. And the best thing that I think you can do is to join a like-minded community of believing songwriters dedicated to fulfill that call. So I want to invite you to jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com, even right now, to check out what we call NCS membership, where you can go deeper into all the resources that will kickstart your creativity, unlock hidden songwriting abilities that you didn't even know you had, and take some important steps towards becoming the songwriter that you were born to be. I believe that you were born to be heard, and NCS membership helps you get there. I'll see you next time.